Hello, this is D, and I'm back with another video. Today's a good video for Xbox fans because I'm going to defend the brand. Now, I see a lot of misinformation and I see a lot of people making up stories just to slander the Xbox Series X. Now, the Xbox Series X as of lately is a lot more popular. With the Activision merger about to go through, a lot of people are starting to play these old Call of Duty games. This has increased the demand of Xbox Series X and it's selling out in various regions. Now we're starting to see a lot of fanboys putting some nonsense on the internet. So today I want to talk about the SSD. We see some reports on that, as well on Microsoft answering the PlayStation 5 Pro. Some people are saying Microsoft is not going to have an answer to the PlayStation 5 Pro. Fanboys are making stuff up, and we're going to address that later on today. First, let's talk about the SSD that's inside of the Series X. Now, this guy, his name is Guapzilla, and he says, uh-oh, y'all, looks like the Red Ring of Death round 2 may be upon us with the Xbox Series X and S. Also, Xbox consoles only using NVMe 2.0 SSDs. What a ripoff. The consoles is at every turn. And he references this guy's video. I don't know the guy's name in the video, so I don't got nothing against him. We're just gonna go and watch his video, then I'm gonna give you guys my reaction and my countersuit to what he says.
Repairs, and he does repairs on certain items that I don't do repairs on, but he has a very similar setup to me. In this video, he's talking about why a lot of the Xbox Series consoles fail and why this console's failures are a lot more offensive than older console failures. And I wanted to bring this up because this really goes back to this you will own nothing and be happy thing that we talk about a lot here on this channel. The TLDR of this video, and I think it's really important to watch, is that this uses an NVMe M2 SSD. Now, SSDs are wear parts. Eventually, if you keep using it, you keep writing data, reading data, using it in a warm environment on a regular basis, it will die. This is just the way of the world. Hard drives die, SSDs die. Now, when it dies, you just think, well, I'm just going to replace it with another one, right? Wrong, because there is a hidden partition that has a key on it. If you replace that SSD, it's not going to work because that key is tied to that specific motherboard, meaning that you have to send the console back to Microsoft for an out-of-warranty repair, which can cost you up to $299. So if your original SSD has failed, and rather than fail in a graceful manner, where you can use a tool like DD Rescue to make a perfect clone to another SSD, and it fails in a catastrophic manner, like 99% of the SSDs in Steve and Chris's queue for data recovery, you're stuck with a console that you have to send to Microsoft in order to do something as basic as an SSD swap, because your SSD was paired to the board with this lovely design that they decided to use on this particular console. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This is misinformation. This video is wrong. I took an SSD from another Series X and I put it in mine after mine failed and it worked. Wait for the next firmware update, bro. Wait for the next firmware update and it will refuse to boot. This is a serious problem. You should be able to have access to whatever tooling is necessary and required to repair the new SSD that you purchase to the motherboard of your device so that regardless of it getting a firmware update, it will boot. Creating the device in a way that when a wear part dies, the device itself is essentially committed suicide unless you give Microsoft $300 is, in my opinion, a steaming pile of bullshit. So you cannot replace the SSD in the console that you purchased. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. Well, I'm one of those people that backs everything up, even my console. You're an idiot for not backing up your console. If you had made a clone of your SSD in your console, then you wouldn't have an unfixable thing. This is...
Now, first of all, I don't know what he's getting at, that there's moving parts inside of this drive. This is an NVMe drive. It has a different form factor. There's no moving parts in there. There's an infinite amount of read and writes that you can do before it will wear out, and it's a lot. So most NVMe SSD drives, they should not fail on you. Now, he is correct, though, that you do need the key in order to get it to boot in your Xbox Series X. Now, of course, I'm one of those people that backs up my stuff, and this is not a normal procedure, so most guys aren't going to do that. If you do have the knowledge or the tools to do this yourself, then I would recommend that you back up your SSD on your Xbox Series X if you feel for some reason that it's going to fail. I got to be honest with you guys, the majority of Xbox Series X's, their SSDs are not going to fail. I just want to be really clear on that. And I think this is just Sony fans just trying to come with anything to rain on Xbox parade. And I really just believe it's just childish. I think it's just an exaggeration. This guy goes on and says that it's the Red Ring of Death round 2. This is not happening. We are not hearing reports of SSDs failing in Xbox Series X's or S's. We are not hearing that. Does it happen? I'm sure there's an odd one that happens. Just like on the PlayStation, I'm sure the odd one happens. However, the majority of consoles are going to be just fine. And if you want to go even further, because I guess this guy's a PlayStation fan and he's trying to take shots at Xbox, the PlayStation's SSD is actually soldered to the PlayStation 5. Unlike the Xbox Series X, as you can see here, the Xbox Series X SSD is not soldered to the drive. You can remove it. So you do have an option to fix it. Yes, you do need the key, and hopefully you backed it up. And I do believe that Microsoft should have some type of tool available, because if this does fail, it should be an easy fix without you having to send $300 to Microsoft. But I gotta reiterate, the chances of that happening are slim to none. These drives are not dying for the masses. It's just not happening. If you have 1 million consoles and 10 consoles, the SSD drives, do you really have a problem? I don't think so. Electronics fail all the time. And once again, I gotta mention, the SSD on the PlayStation 5, you cannot remove it. It is soldered to the board. It says right here, PlayStation 5 soldered 825 gigabyte SSD puts a hard limit on the lifespan of each unit. And this is on the PlayStation 5. So you tweeting out like this is some problem on the Xbox Series X, when if it happens on the PlayStation 5, it's a real problem because you don't have an option to replace it. You definitely gotta send it in. But I gotta be clear, this is a non-issue because this is not gonna happen to the majority of users. And once again, this is just fanboys coming up with anything they can to try to throw shade on the Xbox brand. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm not gonna stand for it. When I see such misinformation being put out, I'm gonna say something about it. Now let's move over to the Xbox Series X, the next generation version of that console, and whether or not that's going to happen. Now this is coming from Hyped, and he says Xbox are in full panic mode after watching the PlayStation 5 Pro specs. They've made a fake series of X2 rumors to cope. Too bad the Series X itself is a mid-gen refresh, according to Microsoft. And you can see a clip from Colt Eastwood's last video. And I also addressed this in my last video. I said that Microsoft would have an answer to the PlayStation 5 Pro. A lot of people are saying it's not needed, I don't want it, no, they're not gonna do it. It's going to happen. First of all, the PlayStation 5 Pro is happening. I went over that in my last video. If you guys wanna know all the details, you can click, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Just to give you the short version of it, developer kits are out there in the wild. Most developers are gonna get it in 2023, and Sony began working on this in 2022, and it's expected to release next year. Now, this is coming from reputable sources that have leaked stuff in the past, like Project Q, which is the handheld device that you can stream your PlayStation 5 to. This is coming from a proven source. I said in my last video that I knew about this from last year. I've been saying this. A lot of people have been doubting me. I know this is real. This is happening. And you guys out there that are saying this is happening too soon, I don't know. You guys have a short-term memory because this is exactly what happened last generation. And I'm going to show you. Now, last generation, November 22nd, 2013, the Xbox One was released in North America, okay? This was the follow-up to the Xbox 360. Also in the same year, the PlayStation 4 was launched across the world, in the States, in Europe, Asian, and South American countries. Then we fast forward to November 10th, 2016. The PlayStation Pro was announced and it was released November 10th. In my last video, I told you that these companies are not going to confirm this until a couple of months before it releases because it hurts the sales of the other units. And this is evidence of that right here. Now, when we click over here and we look, November 7th, 2017, a year after the Xbox One X was introduced, it came out that year. It increased the power from the previous Xbox One, which kind of sucked. The Xbox One was a disastrous launch. It was so much worse than the PlayStation 4. And if you were on Xbox at that time, you know because you heard it from every single PlayStation fan. So when the Xbox One X came out, everybody was happy. It was doing 4K resolution, something that the PlayStation 4 Pro couldn't really do. So this was a big jump over the PlayStation 4 Pro, and this came a year after. Like I said before, now Microsoft has said that they don't have any next generation or mid-generation refresh consoles in the works. They said they've done some studies and there's no interest in that at the moment. However, with the PlayStation 5 Pro coming out, you better believe they're going to have an answer to that. And like I said in my last video, it will come a year later and it'll be a more powerful system. So for those of you out there that are saying we are coping, history says that this will happen. You think that Microsoft is not going to answer the PlayStation 5 Pro? You think they're just going to sit there for 4 or 5 years? And also, you guys thinking that it's too soon. These consoles, the previous versions, the PlayStation 4 Pro, the Xbox One X, were released like 4 years after the system. In fact, the PlayStation 4 Pro was released 3 years after the initial launch. We're about to be approaching the 4th year. 2024 is 4 years since the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X launched. So it would make sense for a PlayStation 5 Pro to come out. And also, following the track record from previous generations, it would make sense for Microsoft to answer with that console in 2025. Now, if Sony's been working on this new console from 2022, and it's going to come out in 2024, that is a 2-year cycle. That would mean that Microsoft would start working on their next generation, or I should say their mid-generation refresh for the next Xbox console this year, which would release in 2025. I think it's going to be called something like the Xbox Next or something like that. Maybe the Xbox One Elite to go with the Elite controllers. I'm just kind of throwing out some names there that I think would be pretty cool for the console. If you guys have different names, let me know in the comment section down below. But basically, I'm saying that this is going to happen, and we have history of this happening before. So for all you guys out there saying this is not going to happen and Microsoft is just coping or not believing that the PlayStation 5 Pro is real and thus not believing that Xbox will counter the Pro, or just believing what Phil Spencer said. Now, that was at the time he was asked that. With the PlayStation 5 Pro coming into existence, everything changes, and you better believe that Microsoft will have an answer to that console. And it coming out a year after the PlayStation 5 Pro should ensure that it's a better console, that it runs a better fidelity, that everything is better about it, because they started development a year after the PlayStation 5 Pro. They're going to have access to better hardware than the PlayStation had at that time. And of course, the PlayStation 5 Pro would come out before the mid-generation refresh Xbox, so they could make some alterations and make sure that it's a superior console. Anyways, I wonder what you guys think about all of this. What do you think about the Xbox Series console's SSD failing? Like I said, it's really about nothing. It's just fanboys just trying to throw things at the wall to see what will stick. What do you think about the PlayStation 5 Pro? Do you still believe that it's not happening? And do you still believe that Microsoft will not answer with a next generation Xbox console? Please let me know all of this in the comment section down below. And like I usually say, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys on the next one.